Welcome to Was It Good, the podcast that reviews movies and TV shows. Today we are talking, potentially, maybe, the epic conclusion to Cobra Kai. It's Cobra Kai Season 5. I'm Ravi, and as always, joined by my two brothers.
Arjuna.
And Krishna.
Christian, I know it's early in the morning, but for you, you're an hour in the future, so I expect some more energy.
Oh, well, I haven't finished my tea yet. So we're getting there.
Wow.
By the end of this pod, I'll have so much energy. So much in my fist.
Your fists of fury.
Exactly.
And you'll join Cobra Kai.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Yep.
Christian, obviously we put this podcast together quite quickly. We forced Christian to watch the entire Season 5, all 10 episodes, in a day? Was it one day?
In one day. Yeah, I did it all yesterday.
So how many hours was it you...
So if each episode is anywhere from like 30 to... Most of the episodes are like 30 minutes.
Yeah, about that.
And there's 10 episodes, so it's over 5 hours. Probably like 5.5, almost 6 hours maybe. So... But it wasn't bad. How I did it was I chunked it, right? So I did 3 episodes in the morning while I worked out. And then I did 3 episodes for lunch. And then I did 3 or 4 episodes evening dinner time.
So you're following the Ravi method of working out, which is to put on some sort of sick comedy while you work out as opposed to listening to music. Isn't it way more... It's better, I think, to work out while listening to a TV show.
See, I disagree. I'd rather have the music because the music like amps me up. But I can see why the TV show might work for you. There's a good analogy, right? There's 2 ways to like kind of work out and train. Do it like a robot, emotionless, and you just get the reps done, or you do it every workout's like a Rocky montage where you need the music, you need to pump yourself up. So, you like the robot method? It sounds like.
Well, yeah. I mean, I also have on usually just reruns of The Office, so you don't actually have to pay any kind of real attention.
Right.
Unless there's those awkward moments where Michael Scott's doing or saying something wildly inappropriate in today's workplace environment.
Yes.
So how would you guys sum up your experiences of watching Cobra Kai Season 5? Juna?
I would say it was a... Oh, wait, we're doing one-word impressions? Is that the sum up?
That's usually the flow of these things.
But did you say one word? I didn't hear one word.
I said, how would you sum up? And now...
Yeah. You threw me off there. If I had to sum this up in one word, I would say uneven as my one word. Or maybe bumpy.
Wait, you got to pick one. You can't have 2.
I'm going to go bumpy.
You should go with Rocky, because that would work on multiple levels, which is, this is not Rocky. The story was a little rocky.
There were Rocky references.
I'll leave Rocky for you. I'm going to go bumpy. I thought this was a little bit of a bumpy season. Definitely has a clear break, a delineation for me in terms of the first half to the second half. The first half felt like prologue almost, or a little bit extended of you kind of had these separate journeys with all of your favorite characters. Daniel and Chosen were kind of on their own path. Johnny and Miguel and Robbie were there on their own path. And it didn't really come together until mid-season. I thought the last 5 minutes of the episode 5, I believe it was, when Daniel gets his ass kicked by Terry Silver, Johnny kind of enters the fray again. I think that's where you get the first Kreese tease in the actual show. It's yes, everything's coming back together. And yeah, so it was just uneven that first half of the season. I don't know if all of the stuff in Mexico with Miguel's dad worked, if with all the Johnny being a dad and just being kind of completely out of the fighting scene was successful, but maybe it was, because the second half of the season I thought was way better, just in terms of the classic Cobra Kai-ness of it all. With you had Terry, you had the Kreese stuff in prison, you had Johnny and Daniel and Chosen all together. Just some really great stuff. It really ascended at the end. Is what I'm saying. It was a real ascension.
You're all about the uneven pavements and
bumpy
different roads. No, I completely agree with that. That makes total sense. The first half was definitely following the adults, and the second half was following kind of the the next generation, if you will, which is a little strange because I think the first 4 seasons all worked really, really well because it was mostly focused, I would say, on the kids and the Daniel, and Lawrence thing and everything was, the classic story that kind of brought you into the world as opposed to being the main focus. And the first half was definitely more focused on them.
I'll say this. I think we had a similar complaint about season 4 with it being a bit of a slower start, and then really kind of settling into itself. And then I think with the Johnny Daniel thing, even last year we were like, okay, they keep doing the same dance over and over again where they start off as allies and they're enemies again and they're pissed off. I'm glad they didn't do that this season. I just wish they were together more of the season. It wasn't until the mid-season part where, like, Daniel shows up drunk at Johnny's house and, like, looks for advice, and then he gets his ass kicked, and then even the final fight, they're separated, right? It's Johnny, Mike Barnes, and Chosen that goes to Terry's house, and then Daniel is the one that goes to the Cobra Kai dojo to fight Terry in the final kind of battle, if you will.
He did the crane kick thing.
He did.
Classic.
It's great.
Classic. But again, it's weird because, I mean, I guess it makes sense in who Silver is to Daniel and everything that happened in, is it the second one or the third one?
Karate Kid 3.
Karate Kid 3. So it kind of makes sense that it needs to be, I guess, Daniel to kind of close out. But it's kind of like, the point, or at least I thought the point of the Cobra Kai season was to talk about the new generation and the new kids. And, at the end of this season, there is no more Cobra Kai per se, right? Because obviously the leader is now in jail.
Of course, Ravi. The main guy escaped jail.
Sure,
Kreese.
So Cobra Kai never dies. If Kreese is around, Cobra Kai lives.
I get that, but I don't think
that's the implication.
I don't think Cobra Kai though is going to be advertising and being like, "Hey kids, I'm an escaped convict. Come join me."
But that's the thing that makes Cobra Kai more dangerous. So Cobra Kai was never meant to be this
public-facing thing.
How John Kreese created it, never meant to be this commercialized, high-tech gimmick of a dojo. It's supposed to be this, like, I want the toughest warriors, no mercy. So he's gonna in his position, he's gonna recruit the baddest of the bad. I don't know who that is because everyone seems to be reformed at this point in terms of the kids. So we'll have to see there.
Yeah, we're jumping all over the place, but we'll probably get to this in bold predictions. But just in terms of where Cobra Kai is, it seems to be in a very similar spot as Miyagi-Do / Eagle Fang was last season, or really this season, right? It's underground. It can't really be public facing and recruiting new students. It's kind of, they have to work in secret potentially,
which is. Yeah, I mean, we're all over the place, but that's what we do here, and that's fine. If we were going for concise, we would make this a lot shorter, I'm sure. But so season 4, remember, it ends with the tournament, and obviously Cobra Kai wins, and the whole point of the tournament and everything was whoever wins the tournament gets the valley, the other dojo has to close. But around episode 5 or 6, it's decided we're gonna train again, and there's like really no consequences to the big tournament, right? Like they decide we're gonna fight. I guess it's probably because they came out public facing and showed up when they were gonna do the whole world tournament, which I can't remember the name of.
Well, so 2 things to that, right? So first of all, they tried to emphasize that Miyagi-Do no longer exists as Miyagi-Do. It's 2 different styles, at least 2 different styles, melding together. And they said that line, right? When, what's the name you're going to submit for the big international tournament? They're like, we don't know. It's not Miyagi-Do. It's not Eagle Fang. We're going to come up with a new name. So that's maybe how they get around that. The second thing is that I think one of the best things about Cobra Kai is that the adults act more like children than children sometimes. So it's like, if you lose the tournament, you got to pack up and go.
Right.
And it's like it's even the line. I texted you guys this line, right, with John Kreese in jail, and he beats up the guy who's been tormenting him, and he's like, now you're going to give me your Jello. I was like, this is an old man fighting a middle-aged man. and they sound like a pair of 6-year-olds, and it worked. It's hilarious. I
Yeah.
mean, they're clearly trying to be campy as hell.
I also think it's a little like MCU logic here. So like if you think of like Civil War to Infinity War, like Civil War was created to fracture alliances and take certain players off the board so you can get to the conclusion of Infinity War, right? So like Cap and Tony aren't friends and they don't fight in Infinity War, and that's why Thanos wins. So I think it's kind of the same idea. It's like you take away the dojo, you take Johnny off the board for the first 5 episodes, and you don't have the united front of the schools. And you see that with some of the students. Some of the students defect to Cobra Kai. You know, they're not training together. The children are kind of lost. They don't have the central dojo to kind of bind them together, which helps Cobra Kai kind of further ascend into like the powerhouse that it is by the end of the season.
Christian, how would you sum up in one word the season?
There's only one correct answer for
Don't
this,
say Jell-O.
and it is La Pussy.
Oh my God.
Arjuna talked about the season being disjointed. I'll tell you, right, the very moment season 5 of Cobra Kai became Cobra Kai was when the kids are at the water park and Minnie LaRusso is getting picked on, and they use the classic, "Oh, look, it's La Pussy." From that moment on, it was Cobra Kai again. Everything before that was very much like
The water
set
park-
up and
Yeah, the water park scene definitely made it back to like classic Cobra Kai, where it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
you know,
That was the line. I'm telling
kids
you.
fighting, and then what is it eventually? Like, props to the lifeguard, because he was like, one more strike and you're all out, and then you know what? He kicked them all out. So good for him.
I thought that was hilarious. He just kept popping up and being like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, get the fuck, stop this shit.
It's so good. So yeah, and honestly, like that was the moment I laughed. The first moment I think I laughed out loud, and then from then on, it was all the campy jokes were back, all the ridiculous character development and foils and all that stuff. It was like from that moment on. I think it was like that was probably episode 4 or 5.
Right.
So, like Arjun said, right around that halfway point. Everything before that, I was like, oh, okay, it wasn't bad. It was just like, but it did feel like this is just development, right?
I think Cobra Kai has like set into its DNA, especially I think since it's moved to Netflix, like the last 2-3 seasons now, of just the first almost the first half of the season is kind of like prologue setup to where it's going for the second half of the season, where it's like, okay, it takes a little bit, and maybe that's why we've like watched these seasons in a day or two, because it's just like if you just watch the first half, you're like, what? Like I didn't really get anything, or like it.
Right.
I'm a little confused as to where we're going. Like, and I still have questions about this season. Like, was the Miguel dad stuff really needed? I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, it was.
it was.
Arjuna, it was needed for
You know
one.
why?
Well, yeah, one simple reason. It is possible to have really uncomfortable, ugly crying on television.
that is a good reason. And actually, the Miguel, the
Zolo.
actor who plays Miguel, is a fantastic ugly crier. We'll say that. But second, it's clear that this is setting up a season 7 plot, I would say. Probably not next season, but this guy's going to find out Miguel's his son. He's going to bring his MMA fighters, and we're going to have a classic karate versus MMA battle with, everyone.
But so Hector, though, he's bad in the sense that he has anger management issues, or is he bad because
No, he's doing some shady shit.
he is okay? I thought it was just strictly like more the MMA stuff and the rigged fighting. 'Cause remember when the MMA fighter comes up to Miguel and Hector, Hector says to him like no more than 2 rounds, right? So
Yeah.
I would assume there's some shady stuff going there, but I wonder, probably there is more stuff.
Also, his reaction to hearing that there might be 2 FBI
Yeah.
people, he's like, oh, wow, this is bad. Like, no one innocent or totally innocent would be like, we got to get out of here.
It is strange,
Probably.
though, right? Like, Hector is just walking around with his new family. Miguel saves the kid, and then all of a sudden, Hector and Miguel are biffles, and Miguel's like a child. Like that does seem a little
Well,
weird,
I
right?
think the reason he took a liking to him is specifically when he mentions he's a fighter. So I think he wants him as one of his MMA fighters.
Maybe
so
showing, yeah.
Christian might be actually like completely right. I think that's the season 7 plot right there, because season season 6 is definitely going to be the big world tournament, right? Because obviously they're in, right? Cobra Kai's technically been
that'd
entered.
be a good place to bring them back.
Yeah,
actually.
and then Miyagi Dojo is also in as well. So
Untitled Karate Dojo, as
Yes.
they were like, we don't know what the title is yet. Oh, you have time to figure it out next season. Wink, wink.
So Netflix, in true Netflix fashion, will make a bunch of pop-up events, and part of it will be like, what do you think the dojo should be called?
Ooh.
I mean, it should be called Miyagi Fang.
I mean, that's,
Miyagi Fang's the easy one. Yeah.
that's kind of cool. Actually, super
Yeah.
cool. My one-word impression to kind of sum up the entire show is classic.
Interesting.
And I say classic because, we have, again, going back to kind of the idea that the show leads into its campiness and everything. That is a big 80s, right? 80s action movies, like campiness. Like we talked about it with what movie? Some action movie that was terrible or good. I can't remember now. But yeah, the whole idea of just kind of playing into the silliness of it, to the 80s style, to the classicness of everything. And these characters, even though we're 6-7 years, we've, technically the show's been out, I think, something like that. Like, they all still feel very much, like, similar because it's only been in their world year and a half, 2 years or something. Like, it hasn't been as long as it has been in the real world. The only real kind of change has been Little LaRusso, who, was it there in season 1, disappeared season 2, season 3, and then popped back up in 4 and now 5. So
That's a giant.
As a giant, yes.
He's like taller than like half the cast. It's crazy.
Hey, he got his shining moment with the eggs.
He had a lot of shining moments this season, I thought.
Lapusso.
Yeah.
Is it Pusso or the Pussy?
Yeah, actually, it's Lapusso, isn't it?
It's Lapusso. Because it's
Yeah.
LaRusso, so he calls it Lapusso.
Yeah.
Lapusso.
So yeah. So my
Where are
one word
these
impression
kids
is
learning
Lapusso.
this language?
I will say
From their parents.
Kenny had some great nicknames because he called Hawk Faux Hawk
Yep.
Yeah.
when he gives him the silver bullet.
He also,
I'm
the
gonna say-
actor also grew
Yeah.
like he got taller as well.
Oh, he got a lot taller. Like
Yeah.
he was as tall as Kyler.
It's crazy. This is what happens though when you do a show, but you classic you run into like kids grow up faster than you can write and produce a television show.
So I will say, like, all these characters have had, like, different arcs of going from good to bad. Essentially, like, almost every single character, like, kid at this point has gone either good to bad or bad to good or both. There's only one character who has stayed kid character who stayed consistent, and that is the bully Kyler. He is the same from season 1 to season 5. He's a dumb bully.
He seems
Yeah,
like
but
they
he's
made
not
him
even-
dumber this season.
Yeah. And he seems to be getting dumber as the show goes on too. Yeah.
His hairstyle is also I don't understand it.
It
didn't make sense to me.
He's like, Kenny,
I
get
mean-
him there.
Yeah. I mean, that's why
Void him.
Kyler's hilarious because they just made him straight up cartoon-esque, which is fun. Actually, most of the show is cartoon-esque, let's be honest. But he is the most cartoon-esque.
That's great.
Yeah. Lapusso.
Lapusso, Faux Hawk. It's great.
Yeah. He does the Kenny character, I think, is their strongest, most cartoon-esque villain. From his like facial expressions to his like he has like some great one-liners.
Yeah.
If he was born in the 80s, he would have been a massive action star, I think, from in the 80s. He's a couple decades too late.
My favorite part is I think it's like at the Cobra Kai dojo. Like he's only like 10 feet away from him, and he just screams. He's like, Kane! It's like, what? It looks so over the top, but
He's got the lip quiver down, like
Yeah.
Wait, do you think like if because I've seen this comparison before where people like compared the characters from Cobra Kai to like Dragon Ball Z. Kenny is Frieza, right? Like that's a given at this point.
No, I wouldn't say he's more Vegeta, I think. Like Frieza's got that weird like gentlemanly side to him, like oh ha ha ha, like the over the top Bond villain kind of almost like he's also got that anger, but Kenny is just like pure rage sometimes,
Right.
and that's Vegeta.
That makes
I would
sense.
say. Yeah.
So Terry Silver is obviously the big bad.
Terry Silver.
Has anyone
Nailed it.
kind of like, again, I mean, I said it, classic, right? Classic villain where the plan makes really no sense and seems like
it's so good.
It seems really insane. Like, was anyone else? I was half expecting at some point when it's like, "What's Terry Silver's big plan?" I was half expecting it's like, "I've developed a new formula for like super karate kids, and we're gonna get like weird Power Ranger / mutant karate fights or something," and like the show just goes completely off the deep end.
Well, I was surprised because they heavily implied that he's sick, right? That there's some type of disease that he has, because he talks, especially the last few episodes, he meets Johnny at the hospital, and you have to wonder, why is he at the hospital, right? And then he, after that point, he constantly looks off and is like, it's all about legacy. He's like, we all can't live forever. So like, he's clearly going to die because he has like cancer or something, and like that's his whole big plan. Like he wants Cobra Kai to be his legacy. But I was surprised that they didn't reveal that at the end. Maybe that must be a season 6 type of thing.
That's definitely
no
a
villain
season 6.
in the Cobra Kai has ever gone for good.
I mean, that's
right.
I mean, it's completely true. I mean, when Kreese got stabbed and it turned out to be Jello.
I mean, you knew
my God.
immediately it wasn't. Like, he wasn't dead.
Yeah, he wasn't dead. But it's so funny because it's so funny. So this person gets stabbed. They check for a pulse, didn't they? At one point.
So I thought about this. I was like, wait a second. How is how are they wheeling him into the coroner's office? Right? It's simple. He knows martial arts so well he can slow his breathing and his pulse down. He's that skilled, I think, is the implication. Either that or he's so old and the cholesterol has blocked his arteries so much that he doesn't have a pulse.
Well, he also clearly there's also people in on his plan, right? Like his buddy, his
Jello
tormentor turned, Slacky or Lackey, I should say, is the one that like stabs him. So like he knows where to stab to like puncture the Jello. You know, he could have easily made the guy who checked his pulse also a lackey. Probably he has lackeys everywhere, very clearly.
But Jello doesn't have the consistency of blood. Like, how did
They melted it down. It's
as someone who used to make really dumb videos in high school. In fact, you both helped me with this. You both know that Jello makes for a terrible blood alternative on camera.
Even melting it down, you would think the cops or the jail people would be like, have a little bit more experience with actual blood that they know.
I will say this though, it doesn't look like blood when he gets stabbed. Like I think they might have actually used melted down Jello to keep it consistent.
Arjuna, wait, okay, back up. Melted down Jello is still like, it's a liquid, right? It's like liquid Jello. So yeah, it wouldn't be thick. It'd be runny.
It was runny. It was like.
Yeah, but blood has a thickness to it compared to like melted down Jello.
Yeah, but you kind of see that with like how fast the Jello blood kind of runs.
Okay, so the only way to solve this is we have to recreate the scene. We gotta get some melted down Jello. Where can we get a jail that we can rent?
The only way to solve this is go through our old footage where we used and made fake blood.
All old
and then do a side-by-side comparison.
Yes.
Remember we used to use the clear tubes and then we would put it behind someone and we would blow the Jello out.
Oh yeah, we were ahead of our
Chunks.
time. Yes.
It was chunky.
Moist, chunky. The producer's flicking me off.
Ointment?
Right now. Yeah.
Sorry.
You're getting a lot of the fingers, so that's great. Okay, I mean that still going back to Terry Silver. I didn't even realize the whole.
Wait,
hospital.
really?
Yeah,
I thought it was so obvious.
I thought it was just. I thought it was more. I'm Terry Silver. I'm a rich person, and I have a lot of free time on my hands.
I that's how it felt until I think it's like episode 7 or 8 is when he runs into Johnny in the hospital, and he's like congratulating him because Johnny's like, "You're following me. That's why you're here." And he doesn't even realize, like, this genuine surprise when he's like, about the baby. He's like, oh, baby, congratulations. But he's clearly there for something else at the hospital. And, you know, most of the TV tropes and whatnot, and it's a kind of play off the dichotomy of, like, Johnny's there for life and Terry's there for death, you know? Like,
wow. Dark.
That still blows my mind. That's something, again, I completely missed. So it happens.
Yeah, same. It doesn't blow my mind, but it makes so much sense. But I totally missed it. I missed all the signs. I was so drawn in by the incredible plot of this season that I missed all the red flags.
Don't worry, Terry will be creased from this season. Next season, they'll have to visit Terry and Silver in jail. And as we know in TV shows, cancer diagnoses don't always stick, right? Like he could be sick and then all of a sudden he's better.
You can beat it.
Then season 6 ends with Terry walking out of jail to take back over Cobra Kai.
I do love it for Terry as like the diabolical villain, where he's like, I only have so long to live, so I'm going to carry out my most darkest, deepest desire, and that is to make Cobra Kai international and kill a bunch of people doing it, or try to.
He doesn't actually kill anyone, thank God.
No, he doesn't, but
well,
not for lack of trying.
Is this a children's show? I mean, the other thing that stuck out to me is in the last episode, it's like the writers were like, we're just going to use the F word as much as humanly possible, because I think I counted something like 6 or 7 F words, or like mother F word. And I'm saying the F word because I don't want to have to bleep myself out when we go to
Beep.
cut this.
Beep.
Beep. But yeah, it feels like the last episode they were just kind of like, we're gonna drop a lot of F-bombs.
Well, I think the audience for this show is us, like our age group of the kids who watched Karate Kid, who are now like in their 20s and 30s, like so young adults essentially. Like they're probably trying to pull in some kid, like probably trying to pull in the kids of that like of our generation as well a little bit. But like it's mostly for us. Like
I think
the
Netflix
nostalgia factor.
I think that makes complete sense. But I think in terms of like when Netflix looks at their audiences and their age groups and everything, they've realized if they want the younger generation, they just need to import more things like Squid Games, because you guys remember Halloween here last year?
Oh yeah.
It
was scary.
You remember the convention when we were dressed up as the characters from Squid Games, and every single kid seemed to
knew what it was.
Yeah,
we're like, isn't that a little violent? So actually, that's a good point, Ravi. If the kids of today are watching stuff like Squid Game, Cobra Kai is like literally children's play for them. Like, my favorite use of the F word in this season was the note from Daniel to Kreese. That supposedly had the lawyer's number.
Oh,
and it was no mercy, motherfucker.
Yeah, Krishna,
We drop F-bombs once or twice every pod, so I just took.
He took our one.
Do you want the FCC coming down on us?
Who? Oh, I don't think we have to worry about them.
I don't think they know we exist, so it's okay. Thank God.
Yeah,
we're not. We're not a CNN. We're not big enough yet.
Yes, that's true. Wow, CNN, not a good comp.
No, not at all.
Because they're crazy.
And speaking of crazy things, when you're young and in a relationship and dating far too young, sometimes you get your heart broken. And we saw that with both Robbie and Miguel, who both get dumped-ish. Sure.
They both got straight up dumped.
And then they make up themselves and become best friends by beating the shit out of each other. Oh,
true Cobra Kai style. Yeah. Yeah.
That was the one quiet we got from Johnny this season.
Oh, that's true. We only got one quiet, but it was effective. I thought it was effective. I mean, it was pretty obvious that this was coming.
Yeah.
It's just shocking. It's props to the showrunners and creators of Cobra Kai for having the patience to wait to bring those two together as allies until season 5. They could have done it in season 2, 3, 4, but they waited all the way till 5 to have those two become a powerful united force. So props to the patience to those guys and to us for sitting through 5 seasons waiting for this ultimate alliance.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of alliances, obviously we saw more characters from, Cobra Kai, right? Like more people just kind of like popping in and showing up. Mike Barnes, obviously being one of the bigger ones, who still knows karate and does drugs.
And it seems like a lot of coke.
Is it coke? It
was an upper for Tori. Coke is my guess.
I thought it was pills.
But. Oh, maybe. Could be.
It could be sawdust.
Could be. Sawdust?
What?
I mean, he makes furniture. That's it's
Not
got-
anymore. Not anymore.
No,
Okay.
or he has to make a lot of furniture for his new furniture store.
I don't think he's gonna get back into that business somehow.
The other surprise, obviously Mike Barnes, I think was a great character to bring back. It was also nice to bring the character back, and it wasn't just a straight up, oh, I still don't like you, Daniel, and I'm still this Cobra Kai is no, I'm actually a reformed human being, actually giving back and doing good things.
But still clearly is capable of going off the deep end though.
Oh yeah, I mean, once you're
As
in
we saw in
Cobra
our
Kai, I
finale.
think that's a common factor. I mean, everyone who has been part of Cobra Kai does something kind of extreme at some point.
Again, though, I want to know how did Mike Barnes get the intel to know where they were going to be, to hijack the limo, to kidnap them? Did
He
was
must
just
have been
there?
following them. He
Yeah,
must have.
he
must
was
have followed
stalking them, obviously.
that night.
Which makes sense because
Oh,
you have to
man.
think his place was burned to the ground, right? And
He probably followed Daniel from his house.
Yeah.
He probably went to his house I'm going to burn your house down. And he's like, wait, where are you going? And then followed him and whatever.
But what about the other surprising past cameo? So it's Karate Kid 3. I believe Daniel's not necessarily love interest, but female friend in that show is actually the cousin of Daniel's wife.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
was interesting. I didn't realize that she was a relative of a character we've already seen.
Same.
I thought it was cool. I think it's cool to kind of connect the universe and have that kind of full circle type of moment for it. It was they're continuously trying to bring back more and more past characters, and they're starting to run out now. So it was nice to get another central one.
So
But I don't know how many more there are left.
Have you ever heard of a little movie called Karate Kid 4?
Yeah, that's the one with what's her name? That's the lead. Famous actress.
Hilary Swank.
Hilary
Yes.
Swank. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh,
last.
shit.
The show creators get asked that every season during the press, and they're like, it's in canon. She exists.
I mean, she's the biggest actor from the whole thing now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
technically, she made it pretty big. So it might be tough to get her. I don't know if Netflix can afford it, really.
Wait,
You
you think they
with
can or
their,
they can't afford it?
They can't. Not with how they've been canceling shows left, right, and center.
And that and this ties me back to at the very start of the pod, I had said, potentially the final, the conclusion to Karate Kid, because who was I think I was talking to Arjuna about this, the cost of making this show obviously has gone way up because these actors are getting paid a lot
Right.
more. And obviously, the cost of production has also gone up. There are other factors as well. So, yeah, it is possible. Netflix. I mean, under the Netflix banner, Karate Kid could be done, and it could, be a while before something else picks up. Because as of right now, when this pod drops, and again, even that might be an incorrect statement. There is no signing of a season 6 right now.
So here's the info we know, right? There, like Rabbi said, season 6 has not officially been announced by Netflix. It could have been signed already and done. It just has not been announced. We also know that they haven't filmed season 6 at all. Well, that's actually slightly incorrect because the creators actually said they've already filmed a couple of scenes during season 5 because they needed some of the actors to still be a certain age, is what they said. Now, here's the slight difference. When season 4 dropped in December 31st of 2021, season 5 had not already been announced. It had already been filmed and had finished filming, which is why we got it 9 months later. So even if a season 6 does happen, you have to imagine that they still probably need to finalize scripts because they wouldn't have necessarily assembled their writing room yet because there's no pay to pay the writers to make those scripts. So you have to still do the writing.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to then do all your pre-production, pass the writing. You have to shoot it, and then you have to edit it, and then you have to market it. right? So that's still probably a full year plus away in terms of when a season 6 could drop. And then you talk about the aging of the child actors. They're going to be even older. They're going to be in their 20s at that point.
And some of them may, depending if Warner, Discovery, don't continue canceling everything. One of them, might be part of the DC universe as the Blue Beetle.
I think that movie's in the can, so
I
could
thought
still
it
go
hadn't
the
been
way
announced that it's been canned yet.
It hasn't been canned yet. It's been filmed.
Right, yeah.
Because it's coming out next year. And as of right now, again, could change by the time we publish this pod, but as of right now, as the taping of this pod, that movie is still on track to come out in theaters in 2023.
If that happens, and let's say it's a big success, that alone, they might just write off the character of Miguel because they may not be able to afford him at that point.
It's true.
Because he's, if the movie does really, really well, like let's say somehow, I don't think it will happen because unfortunately I don't think the character of Blue Beetle is a big enough pull, but like let's say that movie drops $1 billion.
No.
Like,
Crazy.
No.
that would be insane.
Don't be silly.
That would be so cool though, because then like, I
would
would
be
love
awesome.
to see like what the the actor who plays Miguel, what he would do if Netflix was like, hey, we really want you in a season 6, but we cannot afford you.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, it feels like they are pulling back on Miguel, right? Like the
Yeah.
last 2 seasons, he hasn't really like fought. Even for like the audition for the World Tournament, it's not Miguel that is picked. It's not Robbie that's picked. They pick Hawk.
I thought that was really nice.
To do the fighting. It is nice, but it's also like, are they hiding like Zolo's fighting skills? Like he's certainly bulked up for Blue Beetle, but with that bulking up, he might have lost some of his
Agility.
Well,
kind of
did-
karate skills and his agility that he had in the first 2 seasons. And I even went back and I watched like the trailer for season 1, and like his karate skills were like really, really good. And now they're just like, he's more of a street brawler. Like even the fight with Robbie, like it's not technically great, but he's like really brawling.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
But then also, though, you have to remember the character of Miguel also goes through a traumatic injury.
Yeah.
Which,
Changed his style.
Yeah, whenever you have surgery or a major injury, you're never the same unless you're Tom Brady because you're a clone. Facts, by the way.
Correct.
Real quick, I got Tom Brady as my quarterback for my fantasy league. Just want to put that out there for you guys because I know
Vavi, that was a terrible move. He's having marital issues. His play will be subpar this year, and also I can't believe that we didn't call out our one-word impression sentence because it's the best we've ever done.
Oh, what is it?
Ready?
Yep.
It's classic Bumpy Lapusso.
That sounds like a venereal disease.
We always
It's
mark
why
these
it's so
podcasts
good.
as explicit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, why are you worried about this all of a sudden, Mavi? You usually
All right. I had a
usually
dream,
drop the most.
I had a dream that Biden was giving a speech, and he gave. I'm not joking about this. This is legitimately my dream last night. Biden gave a speech, and he gave the FCC more control, and the FCC became like this hit squad going after like podcasters and YouTubers.
What a weird dream. I mean, also there's so many implications
Yeah.
in that dream too. It's like Biden's taking away
Freedoms? Yeah, I don't know. But it was a very strange dream.
Death Star.
I'm not a big fan of the FCC, so
FCC,
Why?
won't you come to me?
exactly.
Silence.
I'm just gonna keep some
silence.
dead air there.
Can we talk about Chosen?
Of course, Chosen
Oh
is
my
the best
God.
character.
Chosen
the best part of the show
was what brought this show to another level that I didn't think was possible. When
Lord.
I did think he was dead for a few minutes at the end of
I did too.
the season when they sliced his back, and I just went, no!
It's
like,
just
how
a
are you
cut.
gonna do
Just
that?
a cut. It was like a little
Yeah.
bit of blood. It was fine.
There's a lot of
just a
blood
flesh
in that
wound.
pool.
The chlorine in the pool sealed it.
Cleaned
because
him.
that's how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
It's not, by the way.
Chosen was amazing. I mean, his best scene was clearly when he was getting drunk and then he's on the phone with Kumiko.
Yep.
And he's like,
Well, no, he left a message. He left a message for her.
yeah, that's right. He left a message and he's like, classic drunk person, like tells her something really, really heartfelt and profound, and then he's like, "Okay, bye," and smiling and hangs up. Like, what the hell? Like, he was so good. Drunk chosen is the best chosen. My prediction of him starting his own dojo didn't come true, but I am glad that he seems to be an integral part of the new dojo.
I mean, he
So,
had the whole
that'd
egg
be
lesson, which was incredible, where he just destroyed eggs.
Yeah,
in
running around
children's
and
souls.
Yeah,
The
like,
whole bit of
traumatizing
him
them.
like walking around with weapons was incredible too. throughout
so
the-
Oh,
great.
the daggers and the guy's
Yeah.
like, you can pick them. And the guy,
he
what's
looks
funny
so
is the
sad.
bouncer was like, you can pick them up later. Like it wasn't that big
Yeah.
of a deal.
He was
Like,
unfazed. I mean, I guess they live in this karate town in the Upper Valley, so they're just like used to it.
So is that normal?
by the way, do you
So
guys
many
know?
questions?
Do you guys know where this was filmed?
No,
Anyone?
it's
Anyone?
somewhere in LA.
Anyone? I
obviously,
guess. Anyone?
What's up in the valley?
No. It was filmed. Majority of it was filmed in Vancouver,
That
and
makes sense.
and I'll drop this, and I want to verify it on later today. But there is the final sequence when they are outside of the Cobra Kai gym. If you look in the background, you can see what appears to be snow on the ground. If you look,
Cold in the summer.
yeah,
Apparently.
because
Hey, you know, with all the
clearly
climate
here right
stuff going
now,
on-
we're not in a heat wave or anything.
Yeah, but with all the climate stuff going on, heat wave one year, snow next year in the valley. So you just never know.
Cobra Kai, never die.
Ooh, yeah.
The other thing, let's jump back to Terry Silver really quick, and then I kind of want to get into our bold predictions that we had for the season. Terry Silver, in his final conversation with Kim Da-eun,
Kim Dae-un.
basically it sounds like he gave 50%, correct, of Cobra Kai.
That's confirmed earlier. Like, I think it's when she comes in the 5th or 6th episode. He's like, "I've sold you 50% of Cobra Kai." And the reason she came and wanted to do this because she wanted the ways of the
Her
Dae-uns.
grandfather.
Her grandfather, who trained Terry and Kreese in that flashback a little bit. She wants that style to be preserved and kind of taught to the Cobra Kai students.
Yeah, it's also interesting. It's interesting that you brought up that flashback too, because there's a little moment there where Kreese and her have a moment, and now that Kreese has escaped jail, I mean that sets up a very nice, new Cobra Kai, more deadly assassins.
Right, because you would think Kreese and her are more aligned than her and Terry.
Right, because Terry wanted sales. So,
Yeah,
He wanted legacy, and
yeah, through
he
sales.
wanted to live forever.
Well, then maybe we still get like robot fighting karate in that Terry does like some mutant robotics thing to keep himself alive, and it's like
my
it's like the
God.
kids versus like a robotic shredder essentially.
if
Well, they
if-
had some interesting creative choices in the prison stuff, right? When Kreese gets attacked, they like
Yeah, go
changed
young
it to the
Kreese.
younger Kreese so he could do
Yeah.
some cool fighting.
I love
sequences.
that. I love
Which is cool because then you see him his last few, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, he's like Martin Krove is a little too old to be doing stunts.
Isn't he in
anymore.
his? I think he's in his late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah,
actor.
and then they also had the choice when he has the whole prison sequence of the therapist changing into all the different people from Kreese's life, and they did the weird Johnny de-aging on him.
Oh,
and I
yep,
was like,
the Johnny Age.
that looked
Love it.
creepy as fuck.
It looked,
was great.
It looked decent though. Like it looked.
It looked better than Luke Skywalker.
Yes. Yeah. Like the eyes. If you look at the eyes didn't look as dead inside like Luke does, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Good for them.
I thought those prison creative choices were actually, I don't know, they worked for me. Like having the therapist change into all the people from Kreese's life. At least it gave you insight into like Kreese's mind
Right.
and like kind of where his battles are. And I like that it is personal for him, right? Terry Silver as an antagonist, it seems very grandiose. I want legacy and all this stuff. At least with Kreese, it's personal. And it's good that clearly Kreese is still going to be the overarching bad, right? It's more effective when it's personal.
I'm actually really
Family.
glad that they didn't do a redemptive arc for Kreese, because I
Same.
thought that's the way they were going. And even like when they go to the prison and they're like, "We'll help you get out," I'm like, "How is this gonna go?" And then Daniel just gives him no mercy, bitch, on the napkin.
Motherfucker. No mercy,
right.
motherfucker.
That which is great.
Way better.
And it's nice. It's nice that they like really close that, and then we're like, Johnny hates you now, so it's like, all right, he's my enemy, like squarely now, which I think is effective.
And the other reason I liked it too, like when they transformed him into young Kreese during the prison fight, was that the therapist has the line. It's like there's that guy is still there inside of you, right? So even though they didn't redeem him here, there is always the chance that he falls over to the good side because the guy is still in there. And I like that Kreese is trying to fight that and is succeeding so far. So we'll see. When the revelation, when we find out that he finds out that he is Johnny Lawrence's father, that will redeem him as he dies in his arms.
I mean, that's been teased for forever.
That's the end of the
right?
show right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a prediction of ours from last year. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's one of our best VODs, actually. So.
Well, actually, let's get into bold predictions revisited. So obviously, we did a season 4 recap pod on Cobra Kai, and at the end of that, we obviously ran around and asked some questions. Krishna has said,
It's ridiculous.
Tori will start a dojo with Kreese after breaking out of jail, and they'll call it Cobra Fist. I hate to say it, to a degree, Krishna's kind of right, where
Kreese did break out of jail.
and Tori and Kreese were in league together, and it was very much kind of sensei-student to a degree. So,
For a little while.
Krishna, you'll get 0.3 of a point for that.
A third of a point. I'll take it.
Yeah. I had said 5 dojos by the end of season 5. I was also kind of correct because Kreese and Tori were a dojo, kind of.
No, you said by the end, and by the end of season 5, there's one dojo.
Literally one, yeah.
I give myself
5.
15 points.
No.
And
Corruption.
Arjuna has said Kreese will team up with Johnny and Daniel to form a dojo. Once one of the kids will change dojo, Kyler will join Miyagi. That last part never gonna happen.
No.
Yeah.
But,
That last
but
one.
I did get the second one right. More than one of the kids changed dojos. There was a few different,
I mean, at the very end,
Jumps
you
here
could
and there.
say all the kids from Cobra Kai under Terry were done.
They leave Cobra
They all
Kai,
quit.
but
Yeah,
even
they all
like
quit.
the female fighter from Eagle Fang joins Cobra Kai.
Right.
There's Penis Breath changes alliances right at the end.
Shocking, by the way. Shocking. Didn't see that coming.
That
That
poor,
was so awesome.
the saddest scene though was when LaRusso first goes into his place and he like lands on his PS4. He's like, my PS4.
Oh, Sting. You're
Stingray.
talking about
Yeah,
Stingray.
sorry. Yeah, Stingray.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stingray's
Stingray
another
also
one.
changes allegiances.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a good one as well. Yeah.
How did you feel, Krishna, about his explanation of what happened to him via D&D?
So this is the second Netflix major show that has incorporated some D&D. It makes me think this is shadow marketing for a new D&D series that will be airing on Netflix.
They couldn't.
I mean, I loved it.
They
personally,
can't
but-
afford. They can't afford that.
Yeah, there's no way. But it is like their one of their most popular ones that incorporated D&D. I loved it. I thought that was a great way to tell the story.
They kind of referenced Stranger Things in the first D&D campaign when all of Stingray's friends leave, where they're talking about like the hero that played what was it, Metallica at the end of Stranger Things season 3?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is the end of Stranger Things.
That's a
season
good.
4.
That's a good.
Spoiler
that's a
alert
good catch.
for those who haven't seen Stranger Things.
There's actually another Netflix movie that was out recently about these high school kids that form like a rock band, and they play D&D in it as well. I think you might be
Well, I'm
onto
just saying.
something. Yeah, there's a
Shadow
lot
marketing.
of D&D references in.
I will say,
Netflix
if you're
originals.
caught up on Lower Decks, which is not a Netflix show, they're in the second episode of the newest season, they play a version of Space D&D with Klingons.
Oh man, that
Ooh.
is. I wish that was a real thing.
It is. I'm almost positive there's a role-playing Star Trek game.
Well, the way this one works is the DM is actually like a computer AI kind of.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Cut the middleman out, you know?
I mean, doesn't it just become a computer game?
Isn't
Like,
life
it just becomes
a
like
D&D?
a video game, essentially.
Let's hear bold predictions for what's to come, if there's anything to come.
I've got one.
Wow.
If there is, does it have to be for the next season, or can it just be a future prediction?
Let's go with the season 6 prediction.
Okay, well, I'm still gonna say it then.
We don't want to be like Arjuna with his, what was it, 10-year, 20-year prediction? 10-year prediction.
Oh, with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So I think for season 6, Hector Salazar finds out Miguel is his son, and that Miguel's mom is knocked up with another kid, with Johnny, and so he's gonna insert himself into their lives and try and destroy that family. I know we're gonna get a nice karate versus MMA, Johnny Lawrence versus Hector, Miguel's two fathers fighting off.
It's an interesting bold prediction. It's definitely out there. I would argue, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Season 7.
I think it's a season 7 setup.
Yeah.
Just because I think season 6 is going to be this world fight tournament thing. And
But wouldn't it be interesting though, right? If Hector gets his world-renowned MMA fighters into the tournament, and this is a subplot of the tournament, is that he finds out all of this with Miguel, and so while they're also training for this tournament, Johnny, Miguel have to deal with this awful family feud drama.
I mean, it would make sense as a way to, I guess, connect better Hector and the MMA fighters. Yeah, that would make sense, actually.
So
or
boom.
it could play out where Miguel ends up winning the world thing, and then
that's
his
a good
face
one.
is blasted everywhere. So then that's how Hector discovers it.
Oh, that's a great call. Yeah, man. And then he probably have pictures and video with his mom, and then he's like, "Wait a second."
I know you.
Yeah,
I
Because
feel like Robbie or Sam have to win like the world tournament because they haven't won anything.
No, that's
because they're losers.
this is Miguel wins everything.
Well, I mean, you could still have them win, right? Like, even if Miguel makes it far enough and the advertising is there, they did a good job of actually hyping up how much exposure this has, like with those Instagram lines and the commercials. Like, they really drove that home of like how much exposure they would be getting, and it would be inevitable. You'd think that Hector's going to see this, so I think that's a good.
I would imagine Tori potentially is the one that like will win the world tournament, because again, when they're talking about the fame and everything, that was the first time she had thought, oh, the potential for college and everything. We know that unfortunately Tori doesn't have the good home life and everything financially, so I could see that being like a big factor. If not her actually winning it, I think it would be a big talking point, because she, that's the whole reason she's fighting, right? Is so that she can better herself, her future, and all that stuff. So
totally.
Judy, you have a bold prediction for season 6?
My bold prediction for season 6 of Cobra Kai is there won't be a season 6 of Cobra Kai.
Wow.
Oh man, that's just sad.
But I believe this is the end of the line for the show. I just think reading the tea leaves. I think reading the tea leaves.
Wait, do you have insider information? Because that's not fair.
I don't have any insider information. But I think just because like it hasn't been announced yet, I feel like the marketing for this season was lower than the other seasons. I think with the way Netflix is going right now with kind of canceling long-standing shows, this is a show that has been going for 5 seasons, but they've commissioned 3 seasons on Netflix. I think because of all of that, like I see it unlikely of them re-upping everybody on this cast, especially because like everybody's moving on to bigger projects and production is getting more expensive. So I think this is the end for Cobra Kai.
Sad, but very much a possibility.
I really hope that's not the case.
Me too, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, just because like they have set up, the Hector stuff with the. I mean, they haven't set it up. We've kind of put it out there that's what we
We've
want.
set it
yeah,
up, yeah.
We've set it up. I think that would be interesting. The World Tournament would be also another like interesting thing. There is still, the nice thing I think is there is still kind of like more story to tell. So
For sure.
yeah. Hopefully it doesn't end up being that way.
I think we talked about this last season. Like, this show can move beyond the current slate of kids. They're introducing enough other younger kids, like the Kennys and Daniel's son and everything, to like eventually be the lead kids within the show, to kind of take over some of that stuff when like the Robbies and the Miguels and the Sams and the Tories kind of move on. So could continue on forever.
Yeah, it could be. Was it Lapusso?
Lapusso. I mean,
friends.
and also there's nothing to say that like the kids in high school now have to even leave. Like some of them could become senseis, right?
Make their own dojos.
They could all exactly. We could have our 10 dojo war that Ravi really wants.
What if it's like? So they come to the realization like Cobra Kai is too expensive. So they're like, we will still be in this universe. We'll call it something else. Like, what is the Fang one?
Eagle Fang.
So they'll make the Netflix will be like, here's Eagle Fang, and it follows
His Robbie Doe.
Yeah, exactly, and like it'll follow like they'll get like maybe one of the characters, and then the rest will like just be guest appearances, right? To kind of continue expanding everything until they build their universe. But what you realize is they're just following the Power Rangers model.
Exactly.
So they just get in a bunch of new kids every year to keep costs way down.
And I think they would make Robbie the Tommy of this universe.
That would make sense. Yeah.
The guy who started bad is now good.
Yep.
He has all the martial arts inside of him. Yeah.
That's my bold prediction. Netflix is going to follow the Power Rangers model and just make a bunch of spin-offs, different dojo names, and it'll just be new kids and similar storylines, and just keep going forever.
Forever.
They just got to figure out like a better merch setup.
When will they go to space?
Honestly, they should just why not just go the route of Fast and Furious and make it as ridiculous as possible. So like Terry Silver returns in season 58 as a robot and has robot assassins. Yeah, why not?
I'd watch it still.
I will say I've watched. I've been watching slowly the Fast and Furious movies. I watched Fast and Furious 6 this weekend, and that is where it makes the jump to being full superhero movie. There's a scene where Michelle Rodriguez's character is on a car or a tank, I think, and it gets kind of tipped, and she goes flying into the air, and then Vin Diesel jumps from like his own car, and they're kind of basically flying through the air. He catches her, and he lands on a car, and they're both totally fine. It's straight up. I was like, this is where it became a superhero movie. I mean, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen Fast and Furious 9, they do go to space.
Is 10 going to be time travel?
What?
They have to do time travel at some point. They go 88 miles an hour, go back in time.
Are we at the point? Are there 10 Fast and Furiouses now, or where are we at?
There's a 10th one is coming out.
Okay. So this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. When 10 comes out, I will go in theaters and see that, and then I'm going to work backwards.
Oh, wow.
Be intense.
It's going to get less ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll be like, wow. So by the time, I get to Fast and Furious, like Tokyo Drift, I'll be like, this is peak Fast and the Furious.
No. Tokyo Drift is like the worst one, right?
I mean, that's the only one I've ever seen is Tokyo Drift, and I still think it's the greatest Fast
I've only
and
seen the
Furious.
first one so far.
Yeah. It reminds me of Need for Speed, so I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
Need for Speed is just like the movie itself is a ripoff of the Fast and Furious.
Isn't Aaron Paul in the Need for Speed movie? Just
that was
playing
his,
Aaron
that
Paul?
was his big franchise play after Breaking Bad. Was Need for Speed.
And now he's gone into the liquor business.
Mezcal.
Who doesn't?
With Walter White.
Yeah. Kids, it is that time. I will start us. Krishna, was Cobra Kai Season 5 the potential last season? on a dying platform known as Netflix. Good.
The shooting star that is Netflix. Yeah, it was good. Was it the best? No. And I hope it's not the last season because it wasn't the best season, right? It was still good. It was still entertaining. The second half was classic Cobra Kai. The plots were ridiculous. Some of the creative choices were ridiculous in a good way. Chosen was a revelation.
Make a spin-off of Chosen if you're going to cancel Cobra Kai.
No, don't do that. Then they'll ruin the character, right? I think he works best as someone who's injecting his chosenness.
I don't know. Episode 2 was just the Chosen episode where he infiltrates Cobra Kai, and I thought that besides the back half of the season, and that even including the back half of the season, that might have been my favorite episode of the entire season, just because it was incredible.
But I still think it's more effective as like the little injections of Chosen instead of a whole show. I could be wrong, that's for sure. But again, I hope there's at least one more season and that we end up just a little bit of a higher note than this one. But it was good. Arjuna, was season 5 of Cobra Kai good?
Yes, it was good. It wasn't the best season, like Krishna said, but I will say the second half of the season was some of my favorite Cobra Kai moments of all time. Just, I really enjoyed all the adult characters getting drunk. I thought that was fun. Especially when, for some reason, when Daniel, Johnny, and Chosen are kind of trapped in the limousine and they just kind of punch the windows, and it's just hilarious to me. I don't know why, even though they could have been hurling towards their death. It's great. It's funny to me. So yes, it was good. I do hope there's more, but my brain says that this is the end of the line, and we'll just have to rewatch Karate Kids and Cobra Kai and live within that. But maybe, just maybe, if it gets canceled, another streaming service could pick it up.
Yeah, because remember, this was originally a YouTube Plus, YouTube
that's
TV,
a great point.
whatever the hell
YouTube
it was.
Red,
and
then
Sony,
Netflix.
and Sony is the one that is responsible for the show. And as we know, Sony is the last major studio. It does not have its own streaming service. So who knows? Maybe in the next year, Sony gets sold to like a bigger corporation, like Apple TV Plus, and then Apple TV is like, let's continue this show on. Like, it'd be great. Could you imagine a Ted Lasso, Cobra Kai 1-2 kick on the good old Apple TV Plus? That'd be great. Ravi, was Cobra Kai season 5 good?
It was good. I had to think about it again. But yeah, it was good. It was quite entertaining. Again, it is a show you watch very quickly and you binge and then you're done and then that's it. I mean,
this would be a terrible, I will say this would be a terrible week-to-week show.
Oh yeah, I mean, but the thing is, I don't think it's not been written in that way.
Yeah, correct.
And as you were actually kind of talking about the potential future of like if Netflix doesn't renew it and it just kind of lets it go, it would need to go through a lot of changes in order for it to work on like the Apple TV Plus model, because Apple TV Plus, they are still week to week television. And if it was to go there in its current format, I don't think it would do nearly as well.
Too much time.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, those platforms, which they still, I don't know why people have not kind of figured this out. Like, some shows need to just drop all at once, and like Cobra Kai is definitely that type of show, because you will lose. Like, the individual episodes are not, I don't think, good enough to like stand on their own, unfortunately.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it does go somewhere else and what it looks like.
I just think these streaming services need to like be comfortable doing both. Like you were kind of saying, like recognize the shows that are big enough where it can maintain a conversation of week to week. Like Rings of Power and House of the Dragon are shows that are dense enough. There's enough going on each episode where you can watch it week to week and there's a big conversation around it and whatnot. And, you know, they're just smaller scale shows like a Ted Lasso or a Cobra Kai that can just be like a nice binge and can still take up the conversation for a few weeks. But if you try to stretch that any longer, it's just like, whatever.
I mean, Disney Plus should also take a page out of that book as well.
Wow.
She-Hulk and every Marvel show needs to be dumped all at once.
Well,
like, definitely don't do You know, real quick, side tangent, because why not? You know how like Disney has problems with their fan base where they are just consistently attacking every single frame and shot and being like, this is the end of whatever. If they just dropped everything all at once, there would be far less, I think, negativity as opposed to the positivity of it, right? Because essentially the haters would watch it all at once, get all their comments out, and then they're done. And then the positivity is people will then pick up the show once that's all done, and then it lasts longer in terms of like a positive view on everything. So, but for that reason alone, that's why you should just dump everything all at once and not
like
this week to week.
Well, even like right now, right? She-Hulk is going against Rings of Power, House of the Dragon weekly. They're going to be going against themselves versus Andor in a few weeks. And it just would make more sense in a busy time to just just drop it all at once, or even do like 3 episodes and 3 episodes and 3 episodes, you know, like shorten the lifespans to make the conversation more intense. So there's just more going on and there's more to dissect, right? Like it makes sense to do weekly in a slower time, which was last year, right? Last year there was less content in general because of the pandemic. Now we're back into like this content heavy overload where there's just so much going on that you need to be smarter about what your content is. And you need to be more honest about what your content is too, just in terms of the scale and what it is.
That was very, very, very well put.
That's why starting today, Was It Good will be releasing all of its episodes on Wednesday.
Yeah, don't ask us how we're doing that, but we figured it out.
All 3,000 episodes will be dropping
tomorrow. Oh, today.
Yeah, I mean, we could just go through the slate of what's coming out, and it's just us simply going back and forth in a giant circle. Was Andor good? Yes, no, and like mismatch everything. Yeah, could automate it. Actually, it would be kind of weird.
Go.
And with that, that's going to do it for us here on Was It Good? As always, thank you for joining in. Thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed to our youtube.com/wasitgood channel. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram at wasitgoodpod. And follow us for sure on Twitter at wasitgood to find out what we're thinking in the moment, because that is what Twitter is for. I think.
Goodbye.